So I'm currently looking at week 3, Monday, and I was asked a question about how to do it. So I'm going to start by reading it to you, and then I will show you how I arrive at both of the correct answers. So it says, find the equation that is equivalent to the quadratic shown below. Select all that apply. X squared minus 8x equals 9. And then they give me 5 options. So one thing you need to know is whenever it says select all that apply, there is going to be more than one answer. So when I look at these answers, and it's maybe a little easier for me, but a lot of them look like completing the square was done to arrive at those solutions. So right away I'm thinking I need to complete the square, which I know is not exactly a strength for everybody, which is probably why I got this question. So I'm going to take this quadratic that I was given and I'm going to complete the square with it. So the first thing that you do is I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to kind of set it up differently. So the original equation I posted up top, or I put up top, and in the second line, when you're completing the square, we are going to try to create a perfect square trinomial. So I left a little space there for a constant that I'm going to add in. And the way that you get that number that goes in that space is you take half of b and square it. So our b value is -8. So I'm going to take half of that number and square it. Half of -8 is -4. And -4 squared is +16. So +16 is the number that I'm going to put in that blank space that I created. So I have x squared minus 8x plus 16. So the problem that I've created right now is I've added 16 to one side of an equation. So now it's unbalanced. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So I'm also going to have to add 16 to the right side so that everything remains equivalent. Okay. Now the goal is to factor the perfect square trinomial that I have created. If you remember how to factor that, you can kind of use the shortcut. But if you don't, you can always just think about factors of 16 that would add to give you -8. So you're thinking, what times what is 16? And when I add them together, I get a -8. And the answer is going to be -4. -4 times -4 is +16. And -4 plus -4 is -8. Okay, so the factors then, when I go to factor it, it would have been x minus 4 and then x minus 4. Since I have two binomials that are exactly the same, I can actually write it as the quantity x minus 4 squared. So that's how I'm going to factor the trinomial. And then on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and combine the 9 and the 16. So 9 plus 16 is 25. So I have x minus 4 squared equals 25. Now, if you were actually going to follow the whole completing the square process, you would then subtract 25 from both sides. That puts your quadratic in vertex form for you. But when I pause here, I notice that what I currently have matches option B. So this is how you get to option B. Now I'm going to show you how you can get to option C. So I'm going to start with the same quadratic. X squared minus 8x equals 9. And the first thing that I'm going to do with this is on the left-hand side, I notice a GCF. So both x squared and 8x have an x in common. So I'm going to factor that out. I'm going to pull the x outside, and in parentheses, I'm left with x minus 8, and then equals 9. So x times the quantity, x minus 8, equals 9. And then I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And you get x times the quantity, x minus 8, minus 9 equals 0. So this is what I currently have. It's 0 because over here 9 minus 9 is going to give us 0 on this side. I'm going to subtract the 9 just to the outside. We can't combine it with what we have going on over here. And after you do that process, you will notice that that matches answer C. And those were the only two that were equivalent. Another strategy is you could take all of the options you were given and you could multiply them out. So I see a lot of parentheses, a lot of binomials that are squared. You can FOIL them, or if you prefer to think of it as the distributive property, you can do that. But you can multiply all these options out and see which ones end up giving you the quadratic that you were given. So if you're not comfortable doing what I just did, especially with the first one with completing the square, you have the option to work with your answers and try to come up with what they showed you at the start. So that's a choice too. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it all the time if you know how to complete the square, because that could be a lot more time consuming than what I just did. But it's up to you. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.